Okay, so here we are with the second of three Eagle Force figures that I have to open this week. And this is Legionnaire, Crimson Moon Undead Soldier. Today is also Juneteenth, worth pointing that out. And also the anniversary of the release of Batman Returns. So, important Batman Day also. So a lot of Batman anniversaries this month because a lot of those movies came out in June. So yeah, and really important Batman anniversary coming up is the 35th, I believe, anniversary of the 1989 Batman movie. If I'm doing my math correctly, that's going to be in a few days. So maybe I should do something special for that. I don't know what I'm going to do though, because I've done so much Batman 1989 stuff here lately. But I could probably try to do something. I'll figure out something to do. So anyway, Eagle Force versus Riot. Uh, the long retired Captain Eagle is reunited back into active duty with his former teammate General Brown. Together, they enlist a new generation of Eagle Force team members to combat the re-emerging forces of Riot, a terrorist organization driven by a desire for total global domination. Legionnaire Undead, Crimson Moon Undead Soldiers, team affiliation Crimson Moon, modern era 2002 to present. The Legionnaire is a relentless horde of undead zombie soldiers materialized at the sinister hands of Count Iron Moon. That's this guy. Uh, Adept in occult science and the supernatural, Iron Moon is unleashed their curse with necromantic rituals and forbidden knowledge. He breathed unholy life into the deceased. These lifeless warriors became as obedient pawns, embodying the dreadful fusion of dark science and the supernatural. I like the idea that the guy combines science and the supernatural. It reminds me of Doctor Doom, who's one of my favorite villains. Anyway, uh, where was I? As the Legionnaire, they serve Iron Moon as an unholy force of reanimated terror bound to his malevolent will. Wow, okay, so let's go ahead and take the card out of the package. And like I've mentioned before with these Eagle Force figures, these are made to be resealable packages, so you can still keep the figure in the package, and we can get a better look at that artwork. This dude with an AK-47 and a Ned Kelly helmet and looks like an automatic pistol, black uniform, skull and crossbones logo, like the Iron Moon tend to have. And again, this is an homage to the original Palitoy Action Man line of the 1980s, which was their attempt to bring their version of G.I. Joe, aka Action Man, into the modern action figure style, the 3 3/4 inch style developed by Star Wars. Before Hasbro did the same thing with G.I. Joe. And those were like Star Wars type articulated figures. And the main villain of it was Baron Ironblood, who was the leader of an organization called the Red Shadows. And Crimson Moon is kind of an homage to the Red Shadows. Now, here's the figure itself with his zombie head on. He's got an extra head in here. We'll get to that in a minute. He's got a couple extra heads, actually. A few extra heads. More than even Count Iron Moon had. But we're going to get into that in a second. Here's the bag with the heads in them. So we're going to talk about those in a little bit. And then we got some other accessories here. There's the figure stand in the form of the Eagle Force logo. And let me just dump these out on my desk here. So we can talk about all of these accessories. Okay. Now, what all do we have here? So we've got a shoulder holster, and this looks very similar to the one that Blockhead has. It might be the same exact one. And we have a red beret with the skull and crossbones on it. And we have a werewolf head Oh no, wait, that's this other one. Never mind. Well, he does have a werewolf head, but not that one. And then we have got some hands. So we've got two of these black gloved gripping hands, one for the left, one for the right. We have two of these somewhat open gloved hands, one for the left and one for the right. We have two solid fist hands, one for the left and one for the right. And we have two werewolf hands, one for the left and one for the right. These don't have fur on them either, which I'm not surprised by that. And then we have an AK-47, which is a good weapon for bad guy army builders. And then it looks almost like a Walther PPK. That'll go in the shoulder holster. And 45 automatic. And then last but not least, we have this funky Ned Kelly looking helmet. And of course, anybody who is a fan of the original Action Force line will recognize this as being the rather distinct helmet of Baron Ironblood. So the costume, the uniform that this guy has is not the uniform that Baron Ironblood has. But here we go. We'll put it on the zombie head so we can see what it looks like with the zombie head. And that's as he is on the package. But you know who does have a uniform kind of close to what the original Baron Ironblood had is this guy. So kind of funny how that worked out, isn't it? All right, so let's go ahead and now we'll talk about those alternate heads. So get that open. So much like with Count Ironmoon, the Legionnaire comes with an extra werewolf head and an extra helmeted Crimson Moon head, the Red Shadows type head. And here's that, and his Red Shadows head is all in black, which should match his black uniform. And then we have the werewolf head again, and this one has some white streaks in it. Makes him rather distinguished, doesn't it? And then, again, with the Baron Ironblood comparison, we actually have a Baron Ironblood head with the white hair and the little mustache and little soul patch, like I was talking about. And looking over his facial features, he looks somewhat familiar. He looks like someone's face I can't quite place. Huh? What do you think? Does he look familiar to you? Look like anyone in particular? I guess how revolting. All right, so let's go ahead and we got this guy's head on here with the peaked cap and the eye patch. So we'll pop that off. And we'll go ahead and pop this guy's head onto the Count Ironmoon figure. And there we go. So for anybody who wants a modern style Baron Ironblood figure, well, there you go. Now the helmet doesn't fit on here too snugly. It's on this one kind of loose. So you might want to take like a little piece of like double-sided tape and stick it on the top of his head, and that'll keep the helmet from wobbling around too much while it's on there. But yeah, so there we go. Go ahead and put it back on the stand because the stand fell off. And like I said, there's two different pegs on the stands and two different sizes of holes on the feet. So I got both of those lined up properly. And get them back on the stand. Come on, there we go. So yeah, there's our modern style Baron Ironblood figure. But not to worry, this guy comes with alternate heads, so you can do whatever you want to with that. So if you wanted to have an army of black Crimson Moon troopers. There he is with that helmet. If you want to turn him into a werewolf, here he is with the werewolf head. Oh, but what are we going to do with the head that originally came with Count Crimson Moon? Well, Count Iron Moon, sorry. Well, you can pop that back on there. And voila! Now we have a figure that looks an awful lot like another early Action Force figure, which was the Black Major. Now, the Black Major had a pretty creepy origin, I think, whereas he was actually originally the Action Force commander, who I believe was a mail-away figure, and he was captured by the Red Shadows and brainwashed into becoming the Black Major and being a villain. So that's just a lot of creepy stuff going on in that storyline. Man, Baron Ironblood was a nasty villain, like worse than the actual American version of Cobra Commander, I think. But for now, since I want to talk about this figure, I'm going to pop one of the heads that actually goes on this figure on here. So let's go ahead and talk about the werewolf parts real quick. Pop the werewolf head on there. And since we got the werewolf head on there now, we can pull off the regular hands. And like I said, anytime you swap out these hands, I would recommend making sure that you grip it where the actual wrist joint is. So you're gripping it by the wrist joint rather than just pulling out the hand by like the fingers or whatever. If you make sure you grab it by the wrist joint, that's going to minimize the chance that you might tear the hand off of the wrist. So there he is with the werewolf hands and the werewolf head. Pretty cool looking. And I'm not going to bother to put all these hands on him. We've already seen what the hands look like, so we can just go ahead and pop that back on there. So I'm going to put him in what I think is the configuration that works best as like a standard army builder. I don't know if I would use this guy's head as an army builder head for the werewolf, just because he's got those white streaks on it, and that does make it rather distinctive looking. I think they probably should have had the army builder figure come with the more plain black, jet black werewolf head, and then had the white streak one come with Count Iron Moon. But that's just me kind of like Sunday morning quarterbacking all of this. Also, I'm not going to bother to swap out the shoulder holster. And I feel like the shoulder holster would work better if we were going to do like the Black Major. I kind of feel like that's more appropriate for him. But there's the shoulder holster, so we can see that. Also, between these two figures, one thing that's missing as far as putting together the original Baron Ironblood is Baron Ironblood's distinctive weapon was, of course, an Uzi. And he doesn't come with an Uzi. Neither one of these figures comes with an Uzi. But thankfully, we have Marauder Task Force, and we can order an Uzi for that. Oh yeah, let's go ahead and have a look at the beret. Since I'll go ahead and put that on the Baron Ironblood head. So there's what it looks like with the beret. So that's pretty cool. Our Ned Kelly helmet back on there. Okay, so we're going to set him aside. And we're going to put the Red Shadows type head on there. And that makes for, I think, a pretty cool army builder. I kind of feel like the Baron Ironblood head is a little too distinctive to use on an army builder character. So I wouldn't personally. I mean, you can if you want. That's what it's there for. But you've got the zombie head, and you've got the werewolf head, and you've got this head, and you could really use any of those for army builder heads if you wanted to. But obviously, the Baron Ironblood head is there just to be Baron Ironblood. That's about all you can do with it. So let's go ahead and go over the articulation real quick. Okay, so the Legionnaire's head rotates all the way around. He can look up about that far. He can look down about that far. Tilts his head kind of quizzically from side to side. Really move it any which way you want to. It is on a ball joint, and the ball joint itself is like a barbell that's ball jointed into the torso as well. At the neck, so arms rotate all the way at the shoulders and move up about that far. So really good range of motion on the shoulders. He does have a single joint of articulation at the elbow, which bends about that far and can rotate all the way around. So good articulation at the elbows. The wrists rotate all the way around, and the pistol, the trigger finger hands have a horizontal or a vertical joint on them. All the rest of the hands look to have horizontal joints on them, but the trigger guard figures have vertical joints. Now, underneath this web gear, he does have the kind of typical ball jointed waist, like most of these modern 3 3/4 inch figures have. And it's kind of similar to an 80s G.I. Joe, but it's not on an O-ring, it's on a ball joint. But it still gives you about that range of motion. He can kick his leg up about that far, kick it back about that far. And he does have a thigh cut, so the thigh rotates all the way around. He's got double jointed knees. The knee bends back about that far. And he's got kind of a ball joint going on at the ankle, almost like a McFarlane figure. But he's got really baggy pants legs. His boots are not bloused. He's got these really baggy pants legs. But the ankles can point down about that far and point up about that far. So still a pretty good range of articulation at the ankles, but the pants leg does kind of hinder it somewhat. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about some of these accessories. So he's got this 45 automatic. We'll go ahead and put that in his hand. And that's what he looks like with that. And that does have a holster, so we can stick the holster, or stick it in the holster. And there we go, that fits in there. Nice and snug. And then he's got this AK-47. So we can go ahead and have him with that. Very cool. And since he does have some good articulation, we can definitely get him into a position where he's holding it in a two-handed grip. Voila. Good to go. All right, so this shoulder holster, like I said, I wasn't really going to bother to take off the web gear that's on him, but hey, he doesn't have any web gear, so we can go ahead and put it on Baron Ironblood, so we can see what it looks like on him. And with this helmet on, he's not Count Ironblood anymore. He's Baron Ironblood. So let's go ahead and do that. So we just kind of slide that over his arms. And he does look really cool with that. So that's going to become his web gear, I think, from now on. Take off the helmet again. And now he has a Walther PPK. I don't know why he looks so familiar to me and why I got that song stuck in my head. I have no idea. Weird, right? So yeah, I'm really digging these figures. I think they'd be really cool figures, even if they weren't like homages to a classic action figure line that I've always had an appreciation for. But that certainly doesn't hurt. It's really cool to have a modern version of Baron Ironblood, which is one that I'd been wanting to make my own custom Baron Ironblood figure for a long time. So I just thought he was a really cool character. And like I said, he is the British version of Cobra Commander. So over in the United Kingdom, in their Battle Action Force comic, that's what Cobra Commander's origin was. Is he was originally Baron Ironblood and wound up betraying the Red Shadows and abandoning them once he felt like they'd served their purpose and started a new organization called Cobra. So this is almost like a prequel to the regular G.I. Joe continuity. Because eventually they did bring in, the actual, American G.I. Joe characters, and Red Jackal became Destro, and then they had they were kind of like its own continuity at first, and like a lot of the characters, it wasn't G.I. Joe, a real American hero. They made it more of an international team. So they gave different nationalities and different characters. Like Rakondo became an Australian character, is one example. And yeah, it makes sense if you see Rakondo, because he's got that Australian jungle fighter hat, so it makes sense. But if I could afford to, I'd buy like a dozen of these guys, because I think this is a really cool army builder figure, and I'm really happy with that. I'm gonna have to try to get the actual red Shadows figure though, because that's something that's necessary. When I pre-ordered these, I didn't realize they had the werewolf parts, and that's something that just makes these figures that much cooler. So a lot of things that I like about these figures, not a lot that I don't like about these figures. They did a really great job with these, and I'm really happy with them. So I guess that's pretty much it for this episode. We've got one more Eagle Force figure to cover tomorrow, is when I'm planning on doing that, because we have Frank Walsh. Now, Frank Walsh, we'll get into talking about what he's an homage to tomorrow, but let's just say I hope that they don't get any big trouble from Disney lawyers. I'm just going to put it that way. Like when I think about it, apparently like the last words that Walt Disney ever said were Kurt Russell when he died. So I don't know. I'm just pointing that out. But you can see he doesn't have the same type of packaging as not like that resembles the classic Mego packaging like the other Eagle Force figures. He's got his own fancy packaging. This is its own fancy subline. So we'll get into that tomorrow. But that's pretty much it for the Legionnaire, I think. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I really do appreciate you coming by and talking about this with me. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you like and YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the Legionnaire and the Eagle Force line in general. I almost said Action Force because, it is an homage to the original Action Force. But thanks for watching. We will talk to you next time. Bye.